Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. And I wrote a post a while back that I think is worth sharing. Somebody had posted on my pro-life forum back on about.com, "You become a human being at birth. Did you ever hear of a fetus getting a birth certificate? I don't make these rules, the government does, so pick on the government, not me." I think that fellow was kind of sawing off the limb upon which he perched by declaring that the government and the government alone has the moral legitimacy to decree who is human and thus deserving protection from slaughter. First of all, prior to Roe, it wasn't legal to just go about killing fetuses. So by arguing that the government has the moral legitimacy to decree who is or isn't human, this guy is conceding that prior to Roe, fetuses were indeed people and it was wrong to kill them. But let's leave that aside and look at the underlying premise, that the government has the moral legitimacy to decide who is a person entitled to protection of the law, entitled to keep his or her life. Now, pro-lifers tend to throw up the Nazi regime's declaration that Jews were not fully human, but that is so inflammatory and emotionally charged that few people can set aside the emotion and consider the political philosophy behind the debate. I'd like to look at something a little closer to home, a little bit smaller scale, and a lot lesser known, so that we can kind of examine it a little more dispassionately. The Haun's Mill Massacre of 1838. On October 27th of 1838, Governor Lilburn W. Boggs of Missouri issued an extermination order, declaring that the Mormons must be treated as enemies and must be exterminated or driven from the state if necessary for the public peace. Now, most Missouri citizens did back the order, although a few did denounce it. The Mormons were, in the simplest of terms, unwanted. On October 30th, with the extermination order as justification, a band of the Missouri militia launched an attack on a small Mormon settlement in Haun's Mill, killing 17 Mormons, including a 10-year-old boy who was shot in the head as he cowered under the bellows of the blacksmith shop, and a 78-year-old man who was shot after he had surrendered his musket. And if you follow the companion link below, I give you some links, including a rare and recently unearthed first-person account. Now, several years ago, I had spoken with a Latter-day Saints historian who told me that survivors of the Haun's Mill Massacre sued the state of Missouri, actually the territory at the time, over the deaths of their loved ones, taking their case all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, he said, backed the state on the grounds that the killings had been perfectly legal. And by the way, that extermination order was on the books in Missouri until it was rescinded by executive order of Governor Christopher S. Bond on June 25th, 1976. So, up until 1976, it was perfectly legal to kill Mormons in Missouri. Did that mean that Mormons living in Missouri weren't human? Would it make killing them right? And I got to tell you the truth, if I had been a lawyer living in Missouri up until that order was rescinded, I would have been so tempted, if the murder victim was a Mormon, to try to use that extermination order to get the client off, just to point out the absurdity of thinking that just because the government tells you it's okay to kill people, it really is okay to kill people.